Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. It's pretty late at night, and I slept really late tonight for whatever reason. I took like a nap in the middle of the nighttime, like at 11 o'clock, and it's about 3 o'clock right now, if not 4, somewhere in there. Man, I spent some of my night reading the sequel to one of my favorite Goosebumps books from the original classic 62-book era of Goosebumps from the original books, you know. The sequel is, of course, Haunted Mask 2. Wow. This is the first time I've ever read this book, and of course I have this copy, which is the recent reissue from like last year or the year before, around the time when Haunted Halloween came out last year. And I have the original cover here. This is not mine growing up. I just recently bought this after I actually got this from my fiance. Man, look at how awesome this tribute to the cover is to this one. I mean, it's so representative of it. I love this scary face on this. Like, look at that, man. Such a fantastic Goosebumps cover. I actually think I like this one more than the original Haunted Mask cover, just because I don't know what it is about it. But man, I'm in utter shock by how fantastic this book is. Now again, I have said constantly that I would say as of right now, possibly, I don't know how 100% this is, but my personal favorite Goosebumps book at this current moment is Goosebumps Wanted, The Haunted Mask, which is the first of the most wanted books when they were going to just be called Wanted, I guess. And it is the fourth Haunted Mask book. And it's exceptional. It's scary. It's absolutely terrifying. One of the goriest Goosebumps books, if not the goriest to ever exist, at least as of right now. And it was horrific. It was more like a young adult novel than a children's novel, like a middle grade type thing, but it scared me to death as a grown man. And I can't even explain to you how effective it was. Haunted Mask 2 is, again, even though I haven't read the book, I've seen the TV episode adaptation on DVD, the same DVD I've owned for all of my life, basically. I have seen it so many times, and I used to watch it like every single Halloween because I loved it so much. I didn't own a copy of the VHS of the original Haunted Mask. It was kind of hard to get your hands on that before like the early 2000s when you were my age. Because we didn't have computers and stuff until like 2005, with my family, I mean. So I got to rent the original Haunted Mask episode. But like I said, Haunted Mask 2 I had on DVD and I watched it all the time. I still have my DVD copy, praise God. And I didn't realize how different that episode is, or that two-parter is from this novel. This is fantastic. I mean, it's genuinely one of the best Goosebumps books I've ever read in my life. I would say it's probably in my top 10 possibly, maybe top 15, but definitely top 10 possibly, of all time for Goosebumps as the current moment stands. And it is so scary and so horrific. The ending just gave me chills when I read it a few minutes ago and finished it up. And the thing is, the first two Haunted Mask books, I personally think they take a little while to get going. They're kind of a slow read at first, but it works in a fantastic pacing way. I don't know how well it'd work for kids, but I think as an adult, I can sit here and I can tell you that it really, really, really enhances what I didn't expect to get from this story. And this book is so different from the TV episode. If you haven't read it, you're going to be in total shock by what happens in the finale. Not that it's this enormous twist or anything, but the resolution of Steve's situation, which we'll get into him in a moment, it's horrifically scary. I mean, just the idea of what happened is so traumatizing to me personally, because I'm the kind of guy that is, as much as I love Halloween, I'm terrified of decorations that are more realistic looking. Like you have those particular Halloween stores that pop up here and there in like abandoned malls and buildings called Spirit of Halloween. I won't even go in those because animatronics scare me to death, and I won't go near those things. Like they have tons in that store. They have all these like jump scare type monsters and stuff, scare me to death. I hate that kind of stuff. I'm terrified with it. I love horror movies, I love so many different things, but I cannot handle stuff like that in real life. And the ending of this book messed with me so bad. If that kind of stuff affects you, I think you're going to be terrified of this, probably even petrified, honestly. Anyway, Haunted Mask 2, what is this about? For anybody who doesn't happen to know, or you're not familiar with the TV episode two-parter thing, essentially, this episode, or this book, excuse me, is about one of the bullies that bullied Carly Beth in the first book. This is a year later, the next Halloween after the first Haunted Mask. And of course, I love Carly Beth. She's in the story. Her friend Sabrina's in the story. But Chuck and Steve are really the main guys. Mainly, though, Steve is our protagonist. We're watching everything happen around him through his eyes. And Steve and Chuck, this Halloween, want to kind of change things up. Specifically, Steve. He wants to stop being a hobo every single Halloween. And he wants to kind of go to this party store that he ends up getting the information from Carly Beth. Now Carly Beth is not scared of everything, which is kind of cool on a character arc for her. I'm really excited the fact that she's not terrified of everything like she was in the first book because of the events of the first book. Of course, for anyone who doesn't know, of course, she got this mask from this party store, and it just changed how she was and how she acted and stuff. At one point, it bonds to her skin so much that there's no bottom to the mask. It's actually part of her body at that point, and it's horrific. And Steve ends up getting the information out of her this Halloween about where she got her mask from. And when he and Chuck go to get it, or go to find it, try to find a new mask and stuff, like what Carly Beth had that was so scary, they go to the party store. Turns out it's old and abandoned. The owner, the guy that was very Vincent Price-like, he had to shut it down. It just went out of business, period. But they end up finding a door in the alleyway that kind of leads down to the basement area. And they sneak in, they start looking around and stuff. They find some masks in there. And Steve finds one of an old man mask. And he grabs it, he takes it with him. And the mask is absolutely terrifying. To me, it's scarier than the one from Most Wanted Haunted Mask or from the original Haunted Mask book before this one. It is horrifically scary how the mask is described. Again, essentially what it is, it's an old man mask. It has like green snot in the nostril area. And it has like a little flap that's cut on the forehead, so like skull is sticking out. There's something about that gets to me. I don't know what it is. It's just, sometimes there are things in books and things like Goosebumps, for example, that get to me really bad. And this is one of those examples. It's kind of like the same feeling I had when I read Ghost Camp, which I think is scarier than this book, but this book is certainly creepy. The TV episode of this Haunted Mask 2 book, it is the most uncomfortable and creepily feeling thing I've ever seen in my life. I think it's definitely effective. I think it's one of the best sequels ever written, one of the best TV episode, TV movie type things ever created. I think it's a fantastic sequel to the first episode adaptation of the novel from R.L. Stine's Goosebumps. I love Haunted Mask 2's episode. This book was fantastic, though. I mean, it really surprised me how different they are. It's kind of like what I said about my Not a Living Dummy 3 review. The TV episode two-parter thing and the book itself were so drastically different that you can enjoy both, and it's kind of hard to decide which one you like more. I think I like Not a Living Dummy 3's TV episodes more because I'm so nostalgic about it. I'd never really read the book much, I think, until that point. I might have read it once, I don't know. But in this case, it's the same situation. I don't know which one I like more. I kind of lean towards the TV episode because I have nostalgia for it. But this book was so creepy. And of course, Steve goes through the same thing that Carly Beth went through. This mask may or may not be trying to bond with his skin and his face. But it's more about the meandering moments in this book that creep me out more. And for example, with this mask, since it's not like Carly Beth's mask, it's an old man mask, it affects him in a different way. Yeah, it changes his voice and all the usual stuff, but it affects how he walks. It affects how he talks. He's very raspy and stuff. In the TV episode, they did this great thing about how he's really thirsty and he can't get enough to drink. He just feels like an old man. You hear old people say that all the time about not being able to quench their thirst and stuff a lot of the time. But this book, there's a scene where Steve is trying to get across the room, and it takes him like 3 minutes to get across his room because he's moving so slow, to try to call Carly Beth and ask her what to do. And it's like he falls asleep. And I don't know, there's just something about that in that scenario that gets to me so drastically. It's just a fantastic book. I love Haunted Mask 2. I think that it's, I don't know, it really honestly surprises me that no one talks about this or loves this as much as the first one, especially with the finale. Again, the solution to this book, I won't spoil it for you, but it's so unnerving to me that I can't believe people don't consider this one of their top 10 or so. I mean, seriously, this is absolutely a scary book. It takes a little while to get to the scarier aspects to it, but this whole idea, it bothers me so much. It is such a great book. I really love it. I love how it just builds and builds and builds. And yeah, we say that all the time about many books, especially with Goosebumps on the channel. and most people that review Goosebumps and stuff talk about this constantly. It builds and it builds and it builds, but this is such a fantastic build all the way through. I actually think I like this possibly more than the first book. I don't know why. I think I kind of do. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not. Maybe it's because I just finished it. I mean, the first book has some really horrifically scary things in it, like the statue plaster of Paris head thing that Carly Beth's mom made for her. There's some really great things like that. There's that really sweet emotional feeling you feel at the end of that book. And this book doesn't really have that. It has a moment that's almost like it, but not entirely. But this book itself, just some of the things that happen into it get to me. I mean, I don't know. This one gets under your skin, whereas the first book creeps you out, if that makes any sense. If there's any real drastic difference that makes sense to you guys about that statement, that's how it feels, and that's what I love about it, and I will cherish Haunted Mask 2. I want to get another copy of this just so I can have it to read every Halloween. I can take it out in public and not have to worry about it getting messed up too bad. But this is such a great book. I could not recommend Haunted Mask 2 enough to you guys. If you haven't read this before, you're missing out. It is a fantastic read. One of my favorite books I've read so far this Halloween season, whether it be when I was reviewing things in September, or whether it be right now where I'm reviewing things in October. If you haven't read Haunted Mask, you're missing out. If you haven't read Haunted Mask 2, though, you're really missing out. Especially if you love the TV episode like myself. God willing, I'll try to have a review out at some point for the Haunted Mask 2 episodes. I haven't watched them yet for this summer, or this October, whatever. If I had to rate Haunted Mask 2 on a 5-star basis, I would easily give this a 5 out of 5. I wasn't entirely convinced that I was going to go that far with this when it got to, probably 3/4 of the book or 2/3 of the book. But as much as I loved it, still, I didn't know if I would give it a 5 out of 5 at the time. But yeah, by now, with the finale, 5 out of 5. There's no question about it. That finale will forever stick with me as one of the creepiest Goosebumps finales that I've ever seen in my life. I cannot believe people don't talk about it. I cannot believe it's not mentioned anywhere on YouTube or in anybody's videos about it. Yeah, that was really, really creepy. And I would love to see a Haunted Mask sequel at some point that kind of picks up on what happened there. That would be really, really cool in my opinion. But anyway, what are your thoughts on Haunted Mask 2? What are your thoughts on the first book, or the third book, Screams of the Haunted Mask, or the fourth book for that matter, my personal favorite, Goosebumps Wanted the Haunted Mask? I gotta tell you, this particular book, as much as I love Wanted the Haunted Mask, this one could totally rival that. I love the first book too, but man, this was really good. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Happy Halloween. Please be careful if you go out anywhere trick-or-treating or anything, because you can't trust people. Anyway, God bless you today, and goodbye.